Elderly woman with Alzheimer's vanished into the woods. Days later, a dog found her in a shocking scene. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It's always awesome to see how far our stories are reaching. Maggie Thompson, a 76-year-old white woman with porcelain pale skin and white hair tied in a messy bun, sits by the window, staring out at the forest without really seeing it. In her hands, she holds an old postcard of a farmhouse with the words, "Our Forever Home," written in shaky handwriting. On the dresser, a ceramic figure of a German shepherd catches her eye now and then, as if it were alive. Maggie murmurs, "Buddy, are you coming for me?" But there's no answer. Only the cold, steady tick of a pendulum clock fills the room. A young nurse, Ashley Carter, enters with a breakfast tray. "Good morning, Mrs. Thompson. We've got oatmeal with honey today, okay?" Maggie doesn't reply. Her gaze stays fixed on the window. Ashley forces a kind smile, sets the tray down, tucks a blanket over Maggie's thin legs, and leaves. There's no real human connection, just routine. Maggie stays alone, her eyes on the horizon. Sometimes she whispers names: James, Emily, Mom, Buddy. The day drags on. No one visits. No family calls. In the reception area, a crooked Christmas sign from last year still hangs. In the dining room, the elderly sit quietly in front of a TV, replaying old news. Maggie doesn't go down for dinner. She stays in her room, muttering words as if talking to someone long gone. As night falls, rain begins to tap against the windows. A flash of lightning briefly lights up a painting of sheep above her bed. Maggie stands with difficulty. She heads to the closet and pulls out a worn blue raincoat. She rummages through her drawers and finds a small locket with a photo of a boy and a dog. She slips it around her neck. "Time to go back, buddy. It's getting late," she says softly. Without a sound, Maggie opens the door, slips through the hallways unnoticed. The security guard, Tyler, is asleep with earphones on, and exits through an emergency door left ajar. Outside, the night is thick, the forest waiting. She steps forward without fear, guided by a memory stronger than reality, the idea of home. She walks with unsteady but determined steps, disappearing into the darkness. Far off, a dog barks, or maybe it's just the echo of her memory. The rain grows heavier, a steady drizzle soaking the ground. The dark, quiet forest seems to part slowly for Maggie Thompson's trembling steps. Twigs snap under her feet, and wet leaves slip beneath her house slippers. Her blue raincoat is poorly fastened, and the locket with the photo of a boy and a dog sways gently against her chest. She doesn't feel the cold yet. Her mind is lost in another time, another place. "Buddy, hurry up. Mom's waiting with hot soup," she murmurs with a broken tenderness. In her mind, she's 10 years old again, heading home. The towering trees around her become the fences of a farmhouse. The shadows aren't threatening. They're pieces of a world she vaguely recalls, as if fragments of her memory are weaving a fragile sense of safety. As she walks, branches brush her skin. A thorn scratches her calf, leaving a small cut. She pauses, looking around, confused. Nothing looks familiar. The darkness thickens and the forest sounds grow louder. Far off, an animal moves, maybe a deer, maybe something else. Back at Maple Grove Retirement Home, Ashley Carter, the nurse who brought Maggie's breakfast, notices her empty bed. She checks the bathroom, then the hallways. No sign of her. A flicker of worry crosses Ashley's face. She hurries to the reception. "Tyler, have you seen Mrs. Thompson?" The young security guard, Tyler Evans, pulls off his earphones and mumbles something unclear. When they realize Maggie is truly gone, an internal alarm sounds. The staff scrambles. It's raining, and it's night. There's no clear plan for this. It takes over an hour to call the police. Every minute matters, but no one seems to grasp how serious it is. Maggie is already far away. In the forest, Maggie keeps moving, no destination in mind. She passes a fallen log and tries to climb a small slope, but slips and falls, landing hard. She groans in pain. For a few minutes, she sits still, breathing fast. Her eyes search the darkness for something familiar. A flash of lightning briefly lights up the trees. She sees a figure, but it's just a twisted tree. The rain pounds harder. Maggie shivers. She tries to stand, managing it with effort. Her right knee buckles slightly, but she presses on. An owl hoots somewhere above. Memories blur together. Her children's young voices, the smell of fresh-baked bread from her youth, Buddy's bark, not the German shepherd she once had, but the golden retriever from her childhood, with honey-colored eyes. "Buddy, please don't leave me alone," she whispers, her voice shaking. In a denser part of the forest, she loses her way completely. She turns in circles. The locket's faint glow flickers weakly. She sits by a moss-covered log, hugging herself. Silent tears fall. She doesn't cry out for help. Deep down, she doesn't know she's lost. She believes she just needs to rest before reaching home. The scene pulls back, revealing the vast, dark expanse of trees and Maggie's small, hunched figure, alone, surrendered to the wilderness. On the local news, a woman's voice reports coldly, "Authorities report the disappearance of Margaret Thompson, 76, diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She may have wandered off early this morning. If you have information, please contact the sheriff's department." In a modest living room, Henry Hank Carter watches the TV intently, a coffee mug in his hands. Beside him, Duke, his German shepherd, lifts his head at the name Margaret. His deep brown eyes lock onto the screen. His ears twitch. He lets out a low, almost mournful sound. Hank strokes Duke's head, not looking away from the news. "Poor thing," he says quietly. Duke stands, walks to the door and looks back at Hank as if saying, "You feel it too, don't you?" A light mist spreads over Henry Hank Carter's property, a retired police officer living in North Carolina. His house sits at the edge of a hill, surrounded by damp fields and trees swaying in the wind. The home is simple, made of light wood, with wide windows and linen curtains. Inside, everything is quiet, except for the soft crackle of firewood in the fireplace. Duke, a German shepherd with dark fur and sharp eyes, sleeps curled up on a rug by the couch. His ears twitch now and then, catching sounds no human could hear. Hank is in the kitchen, brewing coffee. He's about 60, his face weathered by time, with a short graying beard and blue eyes that have seen too much. He walks with a slight limp in his left knee, a leftover from a chase years ago. On the living room wall hang old photos. Hank in his police uniform, Duke by his side, both looking serious. In one, they're in front of an elementary school surrounded by smiling kids. Another shows a blonde woman with gentle eyes, smiling in a blue dress. That's Clara, gone 7 years now. Since then, Hank and Duke have been inseparable, two souls holding on in a world that once felt fuller. As the coffee brews, the TV plays the local news. A reporter reads in a flat tone, "The search continues for Margaret Thompson, 76, missing since early yesterday. She may have wandered from Maple Grove Retirement Home near Greenwood National Forest." Hank, standing still, stops stirring his coffee. His face hardens. He turns to the TV, squinting. A brief image of Maggie flashes on the screen, her staring somewhere beyond the camera, her eyes empty, lost in time and space. Duke snaps his head up. He stands quickly and walks toward the TV as if he recognizes something. He lets out a deep, rare whimper, not a bark, but a sound of distress. Hank watches him closely. Duke turns to him. His eyes seem to say something. He never acts like this without a reason. "What's wrong, old boy?" Hank asks, trying to smile, but his throat tightens. Duke moves to the door. He scratches lightly at the wood with his front paws, then looks back at Hank's old police uniform hanging on a hook by the fireplace. The worn K9 vest still bears the unit's badge. Duke stares at it as if saying, "We need to go." Hank steps closer, slow. He glances at the TV, then at Duke, then at Clara's photo. "It's been a while since we did the right thing, hasn't it?" Duke tilts his head slightly, waiting. Hank lets out a deep sigh. He finishes his coffee in one gulp. He goes to a bedroom and opens a wooden box. Inside is Duke's old work collar, worn but sturdy. He holds it for a moment, then kneels in front of Duke and fastens it around his neck like sealing an old promise. "One last time," he says softly, rubbing Duke's neck. Duke shifts, excited. He spins in a quick circle, his eyes bright with purpose. Hank grabs his raincoat, a flashlight and a backpack, then heads out with Duke. The rain has started again. The path to the forest is muddy, but Duke moves with confidence. Hank follows without a word. They vanish into the forest's shadows as the scene rises, showing the vast green expanse, the endless distance separating them from the woman they need to find. Night falls completely over the forest. The treetops weave together high above, forming a thick canopy that blocks even the moonlight. The rain has settled into a steady drizzle. The sound of drops hitting branches mixes with the occasional creak of wet wood, creating a muted, eerie symphony. Maggie Thompson walks slowly, her feet soaked and heavy. Her blue raincoat clings to her body, smeared with mud and leaves. The locket with the photo swings with each step, tapping her frail chest. Her eyes wander aimlessly, searching for something in the shadows, a path that doesn't exist, a memory that won't return. "Mom, I'm lost, but Buddy's with me," she whispers, stopping in front of a gnarled tree. Suddenly, she slips on a wet stone and falls to her knees. She whimpers softly, clutching her leg. Her right knee, already sore, is now swollen. She tries to stand but gasps with the effort. She slumps onto the leaf-covered ground, shivering. The cold seeps into her bones. The forest, magical by day, is now cruel. A distant animal sound, maybe a coyote, makes Maggie shrink back. The surroundings seem to close in on her. Low branches scrape her arms as she tries to shield herself. Her thoughts jumble faster. She can't tell dream from reality anymore. She spots a light in the distance. Her eyes brighten. She stands with effort and stumbles toward the glow. But when she reaches it, it's just moonlight reflecting in a puddle. Tears fill her eyes. She sits again, exhausted. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the forest, Hank Carter and Duke press on with purpose. Duke leads, his collar snug, nose close to the ground. He sniffs, pauses, listens. His movements are sharp, almost choreographed. Hank holds the flashlight, sweeping it over the ground and low trunks. They're soaked but don't stop. "You feel her out there, Duke? Think she's still alive?" Hank asks. Duke freezes. He growls softly. He finds a scrap of fabric caught on a branch. Blue, thin. Hank picks it up carefully. It's wet, torn. Has to be hers. Duke sniffs again. The tension builds. Hank adjusts his backpack, takes a deep breath, and follows. In another spot, Maggie huddles under a large rock to escape the rain. Her fingers are purple. Her face is pale. She shivers, still muttering words. "Dad, don't leave me. Buddy, I promised I'd come back." Her breathing slows. Her eyes close for long moments. Her body, without warmth or strength, slips towards sleep. But something still flickers in her. A childlike faith, the memory of a dog's love she believes is near. Meanwhile, Duke lifts his nose, sniffing the air. He veers left and bolts. Hank follows as best he can. "What did you find? Wait, Duke!" The scene tracks Duke sprinting down a muddy path, dodging fallen logs. His body hums with urgency. Something in him knows. She's close. The forest seems to part for him as he runs. Hank, panting, pauses and looks where Duke is headed. He whispers to himself, "Hold on, Mrs. Thompson, we're gonna make it." Dawn creeps in slowly. The sky turns a soft grey blue, and birdsong faintly breaks through the forest's damp hush. The rain has eased, but the ground is still soggy, slick, smelling of wet earth and rotting leaves. A tense silence hangs in the air. Hank stops in a small clearing. He rests his hands on his knees, breathing hard. Age is catching up, but he doesn't complain. His eyes stay locked on Duke, who circles the area with renewed focus. Duke halts abruptly. His fur bristles. His ears swivel right. The breeze carries something faint, too subtle for humans, but clear to him. He sniffs the air, takes 2 steps, then bolts. Hank watches, startled. "What's got you, Duke? Where are you going?" Duke runs with purpose, like something inside him has sparked. It's not just tracking. It's instinct, connection. He weaves through bushes, leaps a fallen log, slips in the mud but doesn't slow. His eyes are fixed, his body alive with a drive no training can teach. Hank follows as fast as he can, stumbling, bracing against trees, drenched to the bone. He calls Duke's name a few times, but the dog doesn't pause. He races deeper into the forest, guided by something beyond reason. In a thick part of the woods, Duke stops short. He sniffs the ground, circles tightly, and nears a scrap of fabric tangled in low branches. It's a piece of the blue raincoat. He smells it, then barks once sharp, looking at Hank. Hank approaches, kneeling with effort beside the torn cloth. He holds it gently. "It's hers," he says, almost a whisper. Duke doesn't wait. He circles again, nose to the muddy ground. He moves forward, stops, backtracks, growls softly. He's restless, sensing time is running out. Elsewhere, Maggie lies unconscious. Leaves blown by the wind partly cover her. Her breathing is faint. Her face, pale, has blue patches on her cheeks. Her fingers, crossed over her chest, are still. Only a thread of life holds her there. But in her mind, something fights. She dreams. She's lying on sunny grass from her childhood. Footsteps approach. A dog bounds toward her. A German shepherd. He leaps to her gently. She smiles, reaches out. In the real world, Duke stops again. He lifts his head, looks around. The wind carries something new, a clear, soft scent. His muscles tense. He glances at Hank, makes a low sound and walks slowly, each step guided by something deeper. Hank follows, silent, watching. The air feels different, a quiet breaking, like the forest itself waits for this moment. Duke pauses again. He looks toward a small gap in the trees, where moss blankets the ground and morning light finally touches the earth. He moves forward, slow, then he sees her. Maggie is there, hunched, almost part of the landscape. Her eyes are half closed. Duke approaches softly. He sniffs the air around her, tilts his head. Then, without hesitation, he lies beside her, pressing his warm body against hers, as if willing her back to life with his heart's heat. The first rays of sunlight filter faintly through the high branches. Dew coats everything. The song of blackbirds slowly pierces the heavy dawn silence, heralding a new day with no human witnesses except a man and his dog. Duke lies beside Maggie, his body firm and warm, a shield against the cold trying to claim her. His eyes watch her every move, every fragile breath. Maggie's breathing is shallow, uneven. Her lips twitch faintly. "Buddy, stay," she whispers, caught between dream and waking. Hank finally reaches the clearing. He stops at the edge of the brush, sees them, and presses a hand to his chest, stunned and moved. Tears well in his eyes. He steps forward carefully, as if treading on sacred ground. "My God," he murmurs, kneeling beside her. He shrugs off his backpack and pulls out a thermal blanket and a canteen. With shaking but steady hands, he drapes the blanket over Maggie gently. She opens her eyes for a moment. She sees only shadows and light. She thinks she's in heaven. "Buddy?" Hank looks at Duke, then at her. "No, ma'am, but he found you, and he's not letting you go." With his other hand, Hank grabs the portable radio and contacts emergency services. "This is a civilian volunteer. I've located Mrs. Thompson. She needs medical help now. Coordinates ready to send." His voice cracks as he speaks. He takes a deep breath to steady himself. Duke stays put, alert but calm. Minutes tick by, each one precious. A helicopter's hum grows in the distance. Maggie's eyes close again. Hank holds her hand tightly. "Hang on. You're home now. Don't give up." A single tear slides from her eye, trailing to her ear. A memory floods her. A bright kitchen, fresh-baked bread, children's laughter, and a dog playing at her feet. Suddenly, she opens her eyes and meets Hank's gaze for a moment. There's clarity in them. A brief second, like something clicks back into place. "Where am I?" "Safe, thanks to him," Hank says, nodding at Duke. Paramedics rappel down through the high branches. One, a young man named Ethan Brooks, checks Maggie quickly but carefully. She's weak but stable. This lady had an angel watching her. "Not an angel," Hank says, petting Duke's head. "An old warrior." Maggie is gently placed on a thermal stretcher. Duke walks beside her to the extraction point, never straying. Before they lift her, Maggie grasps Duke's paw briefly. "Thank you for coming back for me." Springfield's rural hospital receives Maggie in the emergency room at dawn. Her frail body responds slowly, but her eyes aren't as lost as before. There's a spark of presence in them, like something vital has been restored. The doctors work quietly, focused. Outside the room, Hank sits, hands clasped, staring at the floor. Duke lies at his feet, head on his paws. The weight is quiet, but heavy. A nurse opens the door and approaches. "Mr. Carter, you can come in, but just for a moment." Hank rises slowly. Duke follows. Inside, Maggie is awake, propped on pillows. Her breathing is still weak, but her face looks peaceful. She turns her head slightly at the sound of paws on the floor. When she sees Duke, her eyes fill with tears. She tries to lift her hand, but it trembles. Duke steps closer, sniffing the air, and gently rests his muzzle on the bed beside her. Maggie smiles. "Buddy, you came back." Hank smiles too, but doesn't correct her. He knows it's not about names, it's deeper than that. "It's okay, Mrs. Thompson, he's here." She strokes Duke's muzzle with short, fragile movements, full of tenderness. Her eyes well up again, but these tears are of comfort, not loss. Hank watches silently. There's something holy in this moment, like witnessing souls reuniting. Hours later, the story spreads through town. A retired cop and his old dog found a woman with Alzheimer's lost in the woods. After police and rescuers had given up hope, they call it a small miracle. The local news interviews neighbors. One, An elderly woman named Dorothy Miller says with a shaky voice, "God doesn't forget those who love truly." In the hospital's conference room, a short press briefing is held. Officials thank Hank's volunteer efforts with formal words. A reporter asks, "Mr. Carter, what made you go look for her without being part of the official team?" Hank looks at Duke, then at the crowd. "Sometimes you don't choose, you just listen." Duke sits beside him, watching calmly. He doesn't move or bark. He just looks, as if he knows this moment belongs to her. In the rehab wing, Maggie recovers day by day. She doesn't talk much. Sometimes she forgets where she is. But whenever Duke enters the room, her eyes light up. She calls him Buddy, always with a smile. "My boy came back. He never left me alone." Doctors notice a slight but steady improvement in her memory. They say the emotional bond might have sparked it. The occupational therapist, Laura Bennett, writes in her report, "The patient shows better time and emotional awareness when the dog is present." One afternoon, Maggie picks up a pen for the first time since the rescue. With effort, she writes on a paper, "Thank you." Beside it, she draws a dog with big ears and a heart. Days have passed since the rescue. Maggie remains under observation, no longer sedated. Her moments of clarity come more often. Sometimes she chats with the nurses. Other times, she stares out the window, humming a tune no one knows. Duke visits every afternoon, and when he's not there, she asks for him with the same warmth a mother uses for a child. During one visit, Maggie takes Hank's hand with unexpected gentleness. "Are you Buddy's dad?" Hank doesn't know what to say. He smiles softly. "Something like that." She nods, satisfied, and pets Duke, who lies beside her bed, as if that spot is his. Meanwhile, the state's health department launches a formal investigation into Maple Grove Retirement Home. Reports of neglect pile up. The emergency door left open, or rather never fixed, becomes a symbol of systemic failure. Ashley Carter, the nurse who brought Maggie coffee the morning she left, gives her statement. Her eyes red, she admits, "I saw her every morning alone, staring out the window. She just wanted to go home." The press covers the story with growing interest. A Raleigh journalist publishes an article titled, "The Woman Saved by a Dog When the System Forgot Her." The story spreads widely online. Comments flood in, most touched or outraged. Many share similar stories of parents and grandparents in cold, uncaring facilities. Maggie's children, Michael and Sophie, finally show up. They arrive at the hospital in formal clothes, clearly uneasy with the cameras. Michael speaks for them. "We trusted the facility. We never thought something like this could happen." But the lead doctor, Dr. Reynolds, cuts in firmly. "Your mother didn't just need medicine, she needed company, and that's not something you outsource." Sophie looks down. Michael tries to argue, but realizes it's too late for excuses. Hank watches from a distance. He doesn't judge or step in. After their visit, Hank walks Duke to the hospital courtyard. He sits on a wooden bench under a tree. Duke lies beside him, quiet. The afternoon sun warms their faces. A reporter approaches. "Mr. Carter, many are calling you a hero." Hank smiles sadly. "The hero's got 4 legs. I just followed his lead." The reporter puts away the recorder, thanks him, and leaves. Hank looks at Duke. "They're using us to ease their guilt, but you know the truth." Duke lifts his head briefly, then rests it again, calm. Late that afternoon, Laura, the therapist, reads Maggie a Robert Frost poem aloud. When she finishes, Maggie murmurs, "That tree, I planted it. With Buddy, it had white flowers." Laura smiles, not correcting her. Some truths don't need precision, just meaning. Fall settles gently over North Carolina's hills. Leaves turn warm shades, ochre, amber, deep red. It's as if nature itself mirrors the slow healing of wounds, sensing something is being mended. Maple Grove Retirement Home has shut down indefinitely. A tarp covers the front sign. Inside, empty rooms and echoing hallways contrast with the place's recent bustle. The investigation found repeated negligence, and the director faces formal charges. The community reacts with anger, but also new efforts. A group of volunteers, led by Laura Bennett and some hospital nurses, starts a program for elderly people without family nearby. They call it Hands That Remember. Hank is among the first to join. He doesn't advertise it or post about it. He just shows up with Duke once a week at the local rehab center's common room. There, Duke becomes more than a dog. He's a ritual. He's hope. When he walks in, faces light up. A man with Parkinson's offers him biscuits. A woman in a wheelchair sings him old songs. Duke lets them pet him with endless patience. His calm energy seems to know exactly what each person needs. Hank watches from a corner. Sometimes he talks with the residents. Other times, he just listens. This new purpose has given him something he thought was gone. Connection. Not to the past, but to the present. Maggie has moved to a smaller, warmer care home where she can see trees from her window and touch the soil with her hands. Her memory still wavers, but she's gained something more precious than accuracy: peace. One afternoon, while watering flowers with a young nurse named Clara, coincidentally the same name as Hank's late wife, Maggie looks up and sees Duke coming down the path. Her eyes widen. She stands with her cane's help. "Buddy," she says with quiet joy. Duke walks to her, tail wagging, and sits at her feet. Hank, a few steps behind, nods in greeting. "Afternoon, Mrs. Thompson." Maggie nods back as if she knows him, though she's not sure from where. "You know something? Since this boy started coming, I sleep without fear." Hank smiles. He looks at Duke, now lying by Maggie's feet, eyes closed, content. Maybe because he remembers for you. The sunset bathes the garden in golden light. The trees sway gently in the breeze. Maggie pets Duke and hums that nameless old tune. For a moment, time stops. No age, no illness, just the quiet truth of love that endures. It's a clear November day. The sky stretches blue and clean over the small care home where Maggie now lives. Mountains rise in the distance like a living postcard. The air is crisp but not cold. Fallen leaves carpet the garden path in bright colors. Maggie sits on a wooden bench wrapped in a thick hand-knitted shawl. Her aged hands stroke Duke's back gently as he lies beside her, still, eyes closed, relaxed. Nurse Clara, always attentive, brings a steaming cup of tea. "With honey, Mrs. Thompson." "Always with honey," Maggie replies with a smile from deep within. She takes a slow sip, looks to the horizon. Her gaze isn't lost anymore, just soft, rooted in the moment. She doesn't know what day it is or what year, but she knows she's okay, safe, not alone. Hank arrives, walking calmly, a book in hand. He wears a grey sweater and a new blue scarf. He sits beside Maggie without a word. They share a quiet understanding, no need for explanations. "Duke picked his spot," Maggie says, breaking the silence gently. "Sometimes I think he came to remind me of something I forgot long ago." "Maybe he's reminding you who you are, not what you forgot," Hank replies, eyes on the dog. A soft breeze stirs the dry leaves. Maggie smiles again, squinting as the sun warms her face. Duke shifts closer, as if he understands every word, every pause, every silence. Minutes pass. Neither speaks. Just the sound of nature, life at its simplest. Clara returns with a blanket for Maggie's legs. "Thank you, dear," Maggie says, then adds, "You know, this place, it feels like home." Clara nods warmly. "Because you made it that way, ma'am, with your laugh, your story, and him." Later, as the sun dips behind the hills, local school kids arrive in the garden. They bring flowers, drawings, letters. They sit on the grass. One by one, they pet Duke with care. Maggie watches, eyes shining. "He's not just mine," she whispers. "He's for everyone who's ever felt alone." Hank opens the book. He reads aloud, slow, his deep voice warm. It's a poem of quiet love, gratitude, rebirth. Maggie listens closely, her fingers still brushing Duke's fur. When he finishes, the silence is deep and calm. Maggie leans slightly, resting her cheek on Duke's head. "Thank you for finding me, even when I didn't know how to get back." Tell me in the comments, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story so far? Your opinion means a lot to me. The scene pulls back, rising over the garden, the trees, the simple, perfect moment. From above, an old woman, a quiet man, and a loyal dog form a triangle of peace, truth, belonging. A soft voiceover closes the story. When the world leaves you behind, a noble soul can find you. Months have passed since that fall. Maggie still lives in the same care home. Her memory ebbs and flows like gentle waves on a shore. Some days she doesn't recall her own name, but she always knows Duke. He's become part of the place, a resident in his own right. When he's not with her, he roams the halls, visiting other seniors with that same calm and care. Some say he has a gift for knowing who needs him most. Hank has found a purpose he never expected. After losing Clara, he thought he had nothing left to give. Now, with Laura Bennett, he runs a small program of therapy visits with retired canine dogs. They call it Four-Legged Bridges, and it's reached 3 nearby counties. Maggie's children, Michael and Sophie, visit more often. Their relationship still holds unspoken hurts, but there's presence now. One Sunday, Michael brought a restored photo album. Maggie looked at it curiously. Seeing a childhood picture with a dog, she murmured, "He was called Buddy, too." Rachel wept quietly. It was the first time she'd heard her mother recall a past name so clearly. The old Maple Grove site was turned into a community space for all ages months later. Its walls now hold murals painted by kids and seniors. At the entrance, a simple iron plaque reads, "Where there's memory, there's love," dedicated to Maggie, Duke, and all who found their way home. Duke ages gracefully. He walks slower, but his gaze is steady. One spring day, resting under the sun among wildflowers, a little girl approached and hugged him with total trust. "Can you keep secrets, pup?" Duke looked at her with those knowing eyes and just stayed there, because that was always his gift, holding truths no one else could carry. And so, through slow goodbyes and new beginnings, the story found its place, not in headlines or medical files, but in the invisible mark a loyal dog left on everyone who'd forgotten how to find home. Thank you so much for sticking with this story until the end. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a ton and motivates us to keep bringing new stories every week. And since you're here, take a moment to check out another one of our stories that's popping up on your screen. Big hug and see you next time. Stay well.